Hey, folks, welcome to the pre show. I am your host, Scotty Roberts, of this here, my show, the Intrepid radio program. We are all set. I've got sound is set. Boom. Testing 1, 2. And Ryan Gale, that is a good question, isn't it? What is sexual satisfaction? He asks. Well, we'll see if we can find out a little bit about it tonight. So let me make sure all my stuff is up and ready to roll here, right there. I got to pull that over there. So much setup time. Well, actually, not bad. But there we go. So, how's everybody's week been? It's Friday night. And I'm exhausted today. Just, I did some work for a client all week. Been working on stuff for clients and friend and client, and then did a quickie prototype job. I stayed up most of the night last night, then planned to sleep off the all-nighter and the near all-nighter, and ended up doing more work for my client. And so Rennie said, just call the show tonight and go to bed, because tomorrow we got to be up bright and early and over an hour from here by 8 in the morning for an all-day cheer competition for my two daughters from school. So that'll be interesting, huh? We got 1 minute left before we go live over on the radio station. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Yes, changing sexual satisfaction, changing sex lives, have kids and have them involved in stuff every day of the week. So I do half of my life. I work here, and yet I'm up and out 10 times a day doing stuff for my kids. So driving them places. That's what it's turned into now. Driving everybody everywhere. All right, guys, we got 30 seconds left, and we're going to go live. So you all just hang tight there. We're going to go dark in a few seconds. I think right now we're going to go dark about 20 seconds, then we're going to come live again. Sit tight. Don't go anywhere.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, folks, happy Friday evening. I'm your host, Scotty Roberts, because this is my show, the Intrepid radio program. And if you're new here, you'll learn all that as we go along. But welcome to the program. You can listen to this show in its audio format only over on the radio station. That is at odysseyradio.com. ODYSY radio.com. So go on over there. You can hear this show in its audio format. And if you're over there listening in audio, you can come over to the YouTube channel and join the chat room. And that's over at youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. You can join up with the other Intrepids starting to filter in. Chuck Thurston, good to see you after your time out on the pirating on the South China Seas. And you're finally back home. And Ryan Gale is here. And he asks, what is sexual satisfaction? Let's see if we can talk about that. Randall Flagg, good to see you. I can't get no satisfaction. And I'm probably singing that wrong, but that's okay. And if you're watching the show and I look tired, it's because I am. My mind is bright and brilliant and frillig and frig. And yet Brilligan Brig, I guess that's the way it is, if you all know what that reference is. But my face, I feel like Robert Mitchum's eyes used to look, just totally tired out today. So if that's what I look like to you, that's because I am. But be assured, my brain is sharp and my wit is almost as sharp. So let's see. There seems to be a lot of little things going on that are fun. I'm working on some fun projects for clients. Um, doing a it looks like I'll be doing a set of Star Trek oriented coffee bags through my friend Dan Madsen and one of his clients that's got a licensure to do coffee for Star Trek and other Paramount type entities out there. And it's not a finished deal yet, but I did some prototype work for it over the last couple days, and it's fun. We'll see where that goes. I'd love to do, if you remember the tumblers I did a while back, using that same style of art. So we'll see. That's kind of fun. That's going on. I've been working for my friend Andy Dabbs, doing his websites for the last couple of weeks, and I think we're finally just about there. And I want to ask you to go over and take a look at his site. Now, if you didn't see my post over on my Facebook page and my Instagram, I am going to post a link here. Go over and help Andy out. You can go over there, and it's Anton Dabbs. It's Antone is the way he pronounces it. AntonDabbs.com. And click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to his newsletter and his blog. And he is the man that I wrote the book for last summer, 20 years from now, on his memoirs and his dealing with um, anxiety issues his whole life. And he's an entrepreneur, and he's done rather well for himself. And so he's got a great story. So he started this site just to do his blogs and building some things up over there. And he also has a whole line of designed shirts and garments that I did for him. He hired me to do. And so you can go over and you can see all those things over at AntonDabbs.com. And then also the sister site to that I've been working on. I'm going to post this one in here as well in the chat room. You can go over to his company is DuluthClothing.com. Not to be confused with Duluth. What is their company? Not clothing. They're Duluth Trading Company. He's Duluth Clothing, and he lives up in the Duluth area, which is right at the point of Lake Superior that comes down into Minnesota and up along the North Shore there. And for a couple of hours, you can drive along the gorgeous North Shore of Lake Superior. And I've been up there many times. I love that area. And so we designed a whole bunch of garments. They're t-shirt designs, hoodies, all different kinds of things, different designs that I put on garments for him. So you can go take a look at his DuluthTrading.com. And there's links back and forth between the two sites. So AntonDabbs.com and DuluthClothing.com. See how easy it is to even get that. Yes, and thank you, Randall Flagg. You posted trading up in there because I was looking for the word. That's how tired my brain is today. And that's a common theme these days, being tired. Maybe that ties into our overall major theme for tonight's show on sexual satisfaction. Now, me, I am 62, going on 63. I'll be 63 by the end of this month. And so, I was just, we talked about this on the show. I think it was at Monday night after the show in the captain's cabin. We talked about this thing of aging. And there's times where I sit and I say, I don't have the same fire in my belly that I seem to have 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. Now, I'm not talking sexually here. I'm talking in general. It's because I used to have all different kinds of irons in the fire. I was always working on trying to make things happen start little companies, entrepreneurial efforts, different projects I was involved in with my art and my writing and so on. And now in my early 60s, I'm not elderly by any means, but those of you who are around my age or have already passed this age and moved on, do you notice that you still have the desire? It's in your head to accomplish and get things done and go, but sometimes you're just like, "Ugh, so tired of throwing all the shit up against the wall to see what sticks." And so there is a modicum of, oh, maybe not as hot a fire in the belly as I used to have. Now that could be rekindled very quickly when I get into big projects and project work and books to write and things to illustrate. I can go off that deep end, but at the same time, there's a part of me that doesn't feel like, oh, I want to, for the 300th time, go through this again to try to make that happen and not have that happen the way I expected to. And so you kind of learn those lessons along the way. It's like, I'm doing something, I got to do it differently. Maybe this is where you go, hey, I should be rich by now so I can hire somebody else to do that for me. But so maybe some of that ties in a bit with our topic tonight. How many of you find yourselves in that kind of a setting in life where I'm getting a little older and it's not as easy as it was before? Somebody said, who said it in the chat room a little earlier on, is that sexuality, my age, uh, and I'm not elderly by any means, man, it's all still there. It's all right here. It's all wanting to do it. It's just now it's almost like I got to make an appointment ahead of time. Give me time. Give me time. I'm not as fat. I'm not as Johnny on the spot. And I once told my doc, and here's maybe a little TMI for some of you. Maybe some of you would go, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I said to my doc once, I said, doc, everything works. It all works. The drive is still there and all that, but it's not like I'm 19. It's not like that anymore. It's like it's work now. And it takes time, it takes effort, it takes planning. It takes, maybe it's too many years of having kids interrupt. I don't know what it is. But this is the kind of thing I want us to talk about. Randall Flagg says, the fire down below. And Steph says, LOL. Yeah. And that's it. It's like, I think if I were a single guy on the market nowadays, I would probably promote myself that way. I'd have no bones, pun intended, to pick about that. I just say, look, I'm on the market. If you want to go there and do that, I'm not 19 anymore. It works, but and it doesn't even take whining and dining. It just takes a thought sometimes, and it's you're like shebang, and then other days it's like, oh my God, I would have to take off my socks, right? Here, hold on. Let me get my socks. Oh God, I can't bend over like that. Oh, that hurts. So, and maybe that just goes to stretching and exercise and all of that good stuff. So, Steph says, I find it's trying to section out my time. I miss the spur of the moment. Damn adulting. Ain't that the truth? It's the spur of the moment. And it seems whenever I catch my wife in passing, we're walking by each other in the living room. She's going that way. I'm going this way. You reach out, you kind of grab each other, you make a little furtive groping, and you stop and you spin around, the two of you, and all of a sudden a child's in the middle, either deliberately interrupting you or accidentally interrupting you. And of course, you can't just do what you did when you were single, and it didn't matter where you were in the house. You didn't have kids around, so you could just drop and give me 40, and since it's the Marine Corps birthday today, and I'm a former Marine, Semper Fi, I would say that the drop and give me 40 is a great analogy to use right now. But it's not like that anymore. You can't just walk around the house. You can't just, clear the kitchen table off or the dining room table or the rug in the living room or in front of the fireplace or the desk chair or whatever. It's got to be behind locked doors. Make sure everybody's asleep. Is everybody gone? Is everybody at school today? Nobody's homesick? Is the planning, the pre-planning can sometimes break the mood. Steph says, I find it much easier now with the kids moved out, at least for now. Yeah, by the time, Rainey and I were having kids when my older kids were still in the house. So, yeah, all of the above, says Steph. Exactly. And so there are all kinds of things that affect us the older we get. And I know I've said it on the show before, just in passing, but I just mentioned it again today to Rainey and to somebody else. I said, Rainey is right now the age I was when I met her 20 years ago. And, we've been together for 18 years. I met her 19 years ago. And that's a part of the year we're 19 years apart. The other part we're 20 years apart. And right now we're 19 years apart for another few weeks, and then I'll bump up to the 20th year apart. And so I tell her now, you think you're feeling tired now? I said, when I met you, I was vivacious. I was a dad of 3 kids, a single dad. I was in good shape, and I was doing my thing, and I was energetic to have somebody like Rainey at age 26. No, really, she was younger than that. I was 44, so she was 23, 24. She was full of energy, and she kept me going. Everybody said, "Oh, you two." And people didn't notice the difference between us. Now, the older we get, and the more entrenched we are in being a family, that age gap has widened a bit, and you can start to see it now, whereas you couldn't see it quite the way before. Randall Flagg says, I hate the bedroom. Better unplanned. Bed feels scripted somehow. Yeah, well, there's that, I set up the room here, the master bedroom down here, so it is appealing. I want Rainey to enjoy it. Now, it's got manly, the way it's set up is Rainey could get her girly, froofy things in here and decorate it the way she wanted. She didn't care. So it's got a red and black plaid comforter, with the pile lining on the one side. And it's got a black mosquito netting canopy that hangs around it, all tied up at the corners, the red floors, all the different accoutrement in there and decoration in there. And it's masculine looking room, but Rainey doesn't care. She's good at that. Chuck Thurston says at 64, my spirit is willing. Other parts, not so much. Yeah, and it's what I have found. It's like even me, and again, I'm not trying to be naughty or dirty with the way I'm talking about this, but there is things like I had open heart surgery almost 7 years ago, and I've had a couple of problems with it along the way. Not because, knock on wood, it's only been because they did something wrong, and you remember all the stories. I don't need to go into that again. There was one side of my heart they put a stent in when they grafted the other side. And the stent was too small, but we didn't know that for 5.5 years. And I kept having annual, heart attacks. And not big, chest gaping. It was like, I think I'm having a heart attack. And sure enough, you go in, and I've talked about this on air before, but we found out they put in the wrong size stent. He fixed it, the cardiologist. And I haven't had an issue, again, knock on wood, for over 1.5 years, almost a year, almost pushing on 2 years. Steph says fuzzy handcuffs and blindfolds. Yeah, I don't do the fuzzy handcuffs, but, I'm game. It's just never been play acting when I have sex is not something that has been up there on my thing. I like pretty straightforward. I'm not talking like Amish sex or anything like that, We're not going to have sex like the English. No, I'm not talking that. I'm just talking just sex, good sex, bodily sex, naked sex, obviously, and all of that. And again, some of it's a bit comical. Some of it is just looking at it and saying the time has changed for us. What has changed for you guys? What has changed? I mean, and I'm not asking, you can put whatever you want in here, but there's this thing I was looking at about the rise and fall of sexual satisfaction, especially in couples. Hey, Michael, good to see you. Yeah, you got to have some fun. I agree, Stephen. I'm not saying don't have fun. You know, uh, I've never been one for the costume thing. Hey, let's have sex, but let's get dressed in costumes first. Eh, I like a good tank top or a good t-shirt that I can yank off of her. So, and there you go. I'm just a guy. So maybe it would take some special changes in life for me to go, yeah, let's go costume. It's not my thing. But I don't have any problem with anybody else who does it. And if Rainey like that, I'd be right on board with her. But there's research out there on how sexual satisfaction changes with the relationship duration. And it's produced, the studies have produced really conflicting results. There's this longitudinal research points that I want to look at to an increase in satisfaction during the first year of a relationship. First year. Boy, first year of my relationship with Rainey, what was it? I mean, it was constant. It was just part of who we were. And we felt it's not just the sex, but the sex was an outpouring, I think, of every other part of life. We just were together all the time. I worked for myself back then too. And so we were always around each other, always going places, always doing things, always loving each other, always having fun. And it was easy in that first year. And, the more once we were in our second year, end of our second year, she got pregnant with Flynn. Was it that long ago? He was born in 09. Yeah, we were married in October of 07. So he was born in 09, August. So that first year we were together. Well, but we were together for 2 years before that. So Flynn came about 2.5 to 3 years into our relationship. So anyway, beginning at the second year, sexual satisfaction tends to start declining. And a decline in sexual satisfaction might be preventable, but it requires a hell of a lot of effort. So how does sexual satisfaction, and Ryan Gale asked the appropriate question very early on, what's sexual satisfaction? How does it change the longer you're in a relationship with somebody? On the one hand, you might be tempted to think that satisfaction would increase as partners learn how to pleasure each other. Oh, that's what you like. Oh, we've been together for 2 years and I didn't know that about you. How did we miss that? Or you missed this or this or that. Or, things are supposed to get better and better and better, right? As time goes on and you're together, things get better. On the other hand, it might also seem plausible that satisfaction would decline as the initial feelings of sexual passion and novelty begin to wear off. Now, all of you that are in relationships out there that have sex within your relationships, have you noticed any decline of sexual passion? Has the novelty worn off? I got to tell you, the novelty is not worn out for me. After almost 20 years, when Rainey walks through the room naked, the novelty is not worn off for me. I'm like, hey, hello. Just say hello to my little friend. And you don't have to read anything biological into that. So, does the novelty wear off? Is the sexual passion gone? What's the drive? Do we just have a sexual drive from an evolutionary point of view that we have a drive and we have those passions to when we're younger or first together, and we're just humping and bumping and greasing up the old flax suits day after day after day. Is that for procreation? Is that what it's for? Because that's the ultimate end of sex, right? Sex is for procreation. But is it also for recreation? Is it also for fun? For release? They say a woman needs to be filled up. And I mean that as a euphemism. Men need to release. We want the release. A woman needs the filling up. And so, on an emotional level. So, which is it? It turns out, frankly, that both are a little bit true. It's a little bit of losing the sexual passion, a little bit of the novelty wearing off. And so there is a science of sexual satisfaction. Did you know this? So early research on this topic produced all kinds of conflicting results. Some of the studies pointed to increases and others to decreases. However, most of these studies suffered from major limitations, with perhaps the biggest drawback being a persistent focus on cross-sectional data as opposed to longitudinal data. And what do I mean by that? In other words, most previous studies on this topic of sexual satisfaction and its decline simply compared a bunch of people in relationships at one time in time, at a point in time, rather than tracking changes in satisfaction levels within relationships over a long period of time. And so another issue is that most of the early research was based on young adults and college students. Who fucks more than anybody? Young adults and college students. So, who are not representative of the broader population of people out there. Pardon me. Gotta get a drink. Steph says, nope, not gone. Just enjoying it more and loving getting to that next plateau. There it is. Now, let me ask you, Steph, and I'm not asking you specifically, but on the tail of that and asking everybody else, at what point does your body start reacting differently to the passion of sex, to the spontaneity of sex? So what happens to your body? The passion, the novelty. What if your body can't keep up? I started talking about my heart surgery and I got off on the heart thing. But then the same year, I had my hip replaced. Now, I've had no problems with my hip. But sometimes, guys, you will know what this is like. Maybe more than a woman who can. Women, you don't experience this unless you're a guy who's had a hip replacement, or a guy that's doing the work from the top on some days. See the pit you can start digging yourself into. But the hip, the constant movement of the hip, I haven't had any problem with that, except I'm older. I'm not in as good a shape as I used to be. So going for 20 minutes, moving your hips constantly, you're dripping sweat by the end, or you're like, holy crap, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And, because when we age, just the natural progression of the aging of the body. So, we're not talking about young adults and college students when we're talking about this, who've usually been focused on. We're talking about all age groups. So there's a more recent study that was published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior, which sought to address these shortcomings and provide a more definitive answer to the question of how sexual satisfaction changes with relationship duration. So, the length of your relationship. Can we put it this way? When we were younger, and let's say you, and this sounds bad to put it this way, when you hop from relationship to relationship, let me qualify that. I don't mean you're just out there fucking everything like bunnies. I mean, you go from, you date, you do your thing, you might have sex, and then you break up for one reason or another. Then you get into another relationship. That cycle repeats itself. For some people, many, many times. For others, maybe it doesn't repeat at all. Maybe they marry that first person. Maybe they only have one or two, and then they're done. And I got to tell you, even in religious circles, which I was in, very conservative, fundamentalist, biblical circles that taught abstinence until marriage and all of these things from a good standpoint. They weren't being just prudes. They just believed that that was the way it should be done. It was a religious value. Yet, kids my age, we were all doing it. That's the thing. And I don't know if parents, if they are as smart as we are now, I would look out for my own kids when they're in their teens and go, honey, I say to Rainey, we gotta watch what she does, what he does, because we know what we were like when we were that age. Now, Rainey would tell you she wasn't all that active when she was a teenager. And her activity, I'd let her tell this, came into her 20s as opposed to college age, as opposed to, again, college age. Mine was more college age too. But I had a lot more of that activity than Rainey did. So the question, and I'm only using a personal example to say, look at your own example. It's okay to say, yeah, I was or I wasn't active. Even in religious circles. And the reason I brought that up is to say, even in religious circles, we all knew everybody was doing it. I remember, and I've said this here on the show, talking about other topics. Old pastor friend of mine said, and we were meeting over some things, and I was working with men's groups at the time in the church, guys in troubled relationships, and my pastor said, Scotty, he says, you wouldn't believe. He says, I can stand up on this pulpit, if you don't go to church, the stage up front. He says, and I look out at our congregation, which at the time, I think we were doing 350 to 400 people every Sunday. He says, I look out there, and he says, you wouldn't believe the number of people that I counsel or that are counseling with our staff that are in affairs or troubled relationships or sexual problems in their relationship. He says it's rampant. Now, can you say, is that every religious community has that? Maybe not necessarily. Do the Amish have that problem? I think their problem is probably a little smaller. Do Muslims have that problem? I don't know, because I've never been there. I know Jewish communities do sometimes. And it all depends on the individuals. Steph says, nope, not very active as a teen. Very strict parents. There you go. Now, my mom wasn't strict with us, but I was also a good kid. I just didn't do a lot of that. Let me take a drink. So there's varying degrees of activity that kids have when they're in their late teens and into their college age, is the only point I'm making. So as you start to look at this, the study that these researchers did for this Archives of Sexual Behavior, they analyzed data from a nationally representative longitudinal study of German adults. And they looked at the responses of 2,800 people, all of whom were young to middle age, 25 to 41. And by the way, I just told Rainey, I said, I think I'm going through my midlife crisis now that I'm pushing 63. But anyway, so 25 to 41 considered young to middle age. And if 41, that's 22 years ago for me. If that was middle aged, what am I now? blink, blink. And it all ranged from heterosexual. It was all heterosexual, and it involved committed relationships. Now, 3 waves of data collected approximately 1 year apart were included in the analysis. And the main outcome considered was sexual satisfaction, which was assessed with the item, how satisfied are you with your sex life? Now, let me just stop for a moment. Let me ask you all listening. You don't have to write it in the chat room or anything, but let me ask you, how satisfied are you with your sex life? Ask yourself, are you satisfied with your sex life? Is that an important part of life? And in asking that question, I am automatically, by asking that, ranking it as an item of some importance in relationship. Some people go, oh, that's just sex. Love isn't sex. We all know love and sex aren't the same thing. We all know that. But we also know that sex is sometimes a manifestation of love between people, between a couple, between a man and a woman. I'll just say it that way. Sex is an outcome of the love. So when I ask, how satisfied are you with your sex life? Sex is generally something that means something in a committed relationship. Now, there's all different varying degrees of what is a lot of sex, a little sex, no sex, some sex. Sex is important, sex is unimportant, at what level, and sometimes those levels change. Now, I could be way off the mark here, but I would rather make a bold empirical statement and say there are not many octogenarians that act like 20-year-olds when it comes to sexual activity. Now, you might go, oh, but you don't know my grandpa and my grandma. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in general. Octogenarians don't have the same level of sexual output and sexual novelty and sexual, hey, Herbert, let's go screw on top of the washing machine. I mean, I just don't think it happens as often as it did when you were 20 to 23. So, all of that to say, when I ask the question, how satisfied are you with your sex life? It's a valid question. And if sex isn't all that important to you, you can still answer that. Are you satisfied with what you do have? So participants in these studies answered with a whole number ranging from 0, meaning very dissatisfied, to 10, being very satisfied during each wave of the survey. And so there was an early increase followed by a steady decrease, is what the study showed. So what did the researchers find out? It turned out that there was an increase in sexual satisfaction during the first year of a relationship, an increased sexual satisfaction. That first year again, like I'm going to say, and I only use personal examples because it's fun and I try to make it comic and lighthearted. But when Rainey and I, the first year we were together, all it would take is a cool breeze. And we were doing it on the desk. We were doing it on the floor, doing it in the bedroom, do it wherever. It's just, we did it in the front yard under a blanket and a lawn chair once. I mean, it was whenever, wherever. That was all in that first year. Now, I can't say that I noticed a lot of difference between year 1 and 2, year 1, 2, and 3. It was when we got married and pregnancy came, family came, different obligations came. And so there's always seemed to be in these studies an increase in sexual satisfaction. I am satisfied with my sex life. And I can tell you what, you could have approached me that first couple of years Rainey and I were together and asked me if I was satisfied with my sex life. And I'd say, hell yeah. There was just nothing else. And so, especially in the latter half of the year of that first year is where you really saw sexual satisfaction. And following that, however, it seemed that sexual satisfaction started to decline. So, in other words, sexual satisfaction rose, you put a pun in there if you want. It rose early on in the relationships, but it began to drop shortly after the early stages of relationship. Satisfaction. So we got to qualify that a bit. What's satisfaction? You can type that into the chat room if you want. What do you think is sexually satisfying? What is sexual satisfaction? What accounts for this pattern in those results? And the authors of the study speculate that partner-specific learning might account for the first year increase because you're so focused on the other person. You're focused on them. You're focused on learning about each other. You're focused on exploring and connecting every little dot and freckle on the other person's body. Hey, did you know you had freckles in the small of your back? No, you didn't. Did you know you had them under your butt cheek? No, it's because you're exploring the other person. You might find out things about the person didn't even know they had. So that's the year. That's that first year, that increase. So think about it this way. During the first year of a relationship, partners are quickly learning about each other's sexual likes and dislikes. And ultimately, this knowledge is likely to increase the satisfaction for everybody because you're zeroed in on making this work with each other. And there are other things to certainly look at that we could look at along the way here. I mean, there's sex itself. I've got all kinds of things that I looked into for this. The fundamentals of sex, from attraction to action, sexual behavior takes on all kinds of forms. There was a pioneering sex researcher who, I don't know if we go along with it, remember the Kinsey reports and things like that? Alfred Kinsey. And he put it, the only universal in human sexuality is variability itself. So human interest in sex can be thought of as a built-in imperative for human beings. Survival of the species. You can go back and call it evolutionary. Survival of the species kind of demands it and depends on it. And although sexual desire tends to wax and wane over the course of your life and perhaps a life together, depending on external demands and relationship satisfaction, it often serves as a passport to bonding, to intimacy, to pleasure, and even human growth and healing. There is healing in sexual gratification and satisfaction. When two people love each other and when mommies and daddies love each other and they get really close. That's what it sounded like where I was going. So people engage in sexual activity for all kinds of reasons. And then to feel alive, to maintain a vital aspect of human functioning, to feel desirable or attractive, to achieve closeness, to please a partner that they love. These are all reasons that we do these things. Sex can be one of the most difficult subjects for a couple to discuss. Bodies and interests change over time. And most people are going to experience some type of sexual problem at some point in life. Most people will. So open communication is an essential to intimacy and to long-term satisfaction. This makes me ask, how does desire emerge? How is desire for each other affected with sexual satisfaction? Could you be satisfied sexually having sex with somebody that you don't desire? Or you don't desire the act itself anymore? What if something's changing in your body chemistry or mentally or emotionally or whatever? What if It's not necessarily a bad relationship you're in with this person on a long term, but your biology's changing. The older you get, that happens. So sexual desire involves both biology and psychology, and it can be absolutely unpredictable. And it can manifest very differently in men and in women. For men, arousal typically precedes desire. But for women, desire often precedes arousal. They can desire it, but they're going to work at getting aroused. The men can be aroused and then the desire kicks in. So, and this is all in response to physical intimacy, emotional connection, an atmosphere free of distractions, connection. So, researchers focus on human desire by exploring the interplay. I was going to say the intercourse. By exploring the intercourse of biological influences, such as I used the word intercourse once when I was talking about something totally different, non-sexual, and people started to giggle. And I go, "Come on, we adults here or not? We're humans. We're intercoursing with each other." So, biological influences such as neurohormones, psychological influences such as emotions and relationships, smell plays an often subtle role in attraction. And research shows that women are attracted to mates whose natural body odor or their pheromones or signals a whole genetic profile distinct from their own. And they're drawn by a sense of smell. Sean Strike says, I'm still 17. Yeah, me too. I just don't look it anymore. Low sexual desire is common among both men and women, but it can often be resolved by addressing conflicts, more consistently exchanging affection and conversation outside the bedroom, making sufficient time for sex, making time for it, folks. That's part of this. And there's the pleasure of sex. There's how does sex change over the lifespan? I want to get into that a little bit. How much time do we have left on the radio? We got about 9 minutes left on the radio. Let's see where we get here. So these basics, I'm talking about, there's a knowledge that's likely to increase satisfaction for everyone involved. And for the subsequent decline, starting in the second year, part of the story here has to do with changes in the frequency with which partners were having sex. Specifically, people started having sex less around the same time that satisfaction began to drop. And it might not even be noticeable when they're doing that. And so the decrease in sex partially accounted for why their sex satisfaction dropped. So, of course, it's worth mentioning that the decrease in satisfaction might also be a function of reduced sexual passion. Now, that's something we know typically declines within the first few years of a relationship. However, I should note that it's possible to keep passion alive by regularly engaging in novel activities. So when Rainey says to me, when I go, "Hey, how about it? How about it? A little, do. And she'll go, "Well, when was the last time you took me on a date?" And I'm like, when was the last time we had time for a date? When was the last time we didn't have kids always blocking everything we tried to do? And it's like, you're not answering my question. And, those are the kinds of things that start when we go, "Hey, let's do this." And guys, we're kind of like, "Sure, let me drop whatever I'm doing and let's go." Women are like, "You didn't take me out on a date this month." And it's like, well, yeah. We went lots of places, but we didn't go on a date. So, these are things, guys, that we have to watch. Maybe that's part of that whole thing of a decrease in satisfaction might be a function of reduced passion because there's declines of other kinds in a relationship. So, in other words, while the overall trend is toward a steady decline in sexual satisfaction as you get a little older, as you start aging in your relationship, even though you might not be old, there's always individual variability. A decline in satisfaction is not an inevitability, but it does seem to take some effort to keep the passion alive and well and kicking. And the most tried and true way of blunting the decline is to keep throwing new and different things into the mix and expanding your sexual horizons together. Now, I'm going to tell you, on that point alone, it is sometimes when you are working as a couple, you've been together a few years, you have kids now, financial needs have changed, time, as kids start growing a little older, constantly being pulled apart, constantly having to schedule other things. Like tomorrow, we got to be gone all day tomorrow. You know what I said earlier in the week? I said, Saturday, it's going to be kind of nice out. Let's go make sure we have our yard prepped for winter. Winter's coming. I don't want to wake up in the spring when the snow starts to melt and find all the bikes and rakes and toys and junk all over the lawn, the hose, the garden hose. I said, let's take Saturday. Oh, we got the cheerleading competition on Saturday for both Rowan and Ellery. So we've got to lop off a Saturday again, and because there's always something going on, scouts or this or that or the other thing, and tomorrow and we got to be gone from 7 a.m. We have to leave, and we won't get home till probably 5 or 6 tomorrow night. All day watching citywide Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the whole region, state, compete in cheer. And my daughters will probably comprise about 20 minutes of that whole day. But we got to be there for everything because of the schedule and the awards at the end. And so you're sitting all day to watch your two kids be involved for 20 minutes. So it's all done for our kids. We've done this before. It's like watching a basketball tournament that lasts 8 hours. Same thing. Your kid plays X number of those hours. So anyway, here's a couple of takeaways. While the study I've kind of referenced builds upon the limitations of previous research in a major way, it has limitations that are built into it all of its own. And as all studies do. So, for instance, we can't say whether the pattern observed here would be similar or different in older adults or among persons in same age relationships. Randy and I have 20 years between us, so ours is going to meter out different than somebody else's. I think it's pretty good, but it's not what it used to be. Is there a decline? Is there a decline? Is the passion subsided? Maybe because we're overrun with being parents. And who gets the short end of the stick all the time? The other parent, no matter which parent you are. The other parent's like, how come you got so much time for that and not for me? I also, this reminded me of who was it? Chris Rock that said this? Not Chris Rock. Yeah, Chris Rock. Black Chris Rock. There's another Chris Rock. Comedian. And he said something like, he said, do you realize that the only person in a relationship how did he put this? The only person in a relationship who the love toward him is not unconditional is the man. Because the man's always got to be producing something in order to be loved. Now, somebody will, that's not true. Well, kind of look at it. If the guy's not doing his job, if he's not providing for his family, if he's not working hard, if he's not running everybody around, if he's not fixing things around the house, it's a guy who, it seems that the love for a man in a family, the dad, the husband, is contingent upon how useful he is. And that's very different from year one, when it wasn't about usefulness. It was about passion. So things change. And does that change our sexuality? And I'm sure there are other similar arguments like that to be said out there. But now there's room for improvement in the measurement of sexual satisfaction, especially considering that the item used didn't tap into different dimensions of sexual satisfaction. And so a multi-dimensional measure of sexual satisfaction might very well find that certain elements improve, like satisfaction with emotional connection, while others decline, satisfaction with sexual frequency. So with all of that said, though, all of these findings are important because what they do is they tell us that sexual satisfaction appears to both increase and decrease with relationship length. And so that's where I want to leave that. And so look at your own relationship and ask, where is my relationship? What do I do to help build the sexual satisfaction on that particular question? Yeah, there's all kinds of other questions we got to look at too, but we're talking about specifically sexual satisfaction for this particular topic tonight. So with sexual satisfaction, what are you doing to make sure the other person is satisfied? To make sure that it's good for them and it's fun for them and it's ongoing for them. Other person in the relationship, think of it the same way the other ways around. What are you doing for the other person? What's the man doing for the woman? Does he take her out on dates? Does he wash the dishes? And I got to say, if I lack taking my wife on dates, I sure do a lot of dishwashing around here and floor scrubbing and laundry and all that kind of stuff alongside my work. So we're always busy. But what does that woman do? What does she do for her man? What does Rainey do for me? What do I do for her? We ask ourselves these questions. And so, as we do every time, radio audience, we got to get out of here. It's time to go. So join us in the captain's cabin in just a few minutes on the YouTube channel. In the meantime, radio audience, live long and prosper. And shalom.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. I rather doubt it, Steph. Steph just posed a question and made a comment. And by the way, folks, welcome to the captain's cabin. Arr. And hopefully be reliving a little bit of that. We've got a lot of Uncle Dave's stuff that we're going to be going through on Sunday afternoon. Finally, we're able to locate some of his stuff that was stored after his death or before his death. And so we're going to find all of his swords and his costumes and all of his equipment and his tailoring stuff and painting stuff and all of that. So we're going to have a fun time going through that on Sunday with the family over there. And Sam had asked if there was, a costume piece he could get of Dave's or a sword. Of course, there's a couple of costume pieces I would like to have of Dave. So we'll see when we get there, hopefully. And of course, it's all very delicate. Nobody wants to be a vulture and say, can I have that thing of Dave's now that he's dead? It was very touchy early on. I know Sam, my son, came to me and, the week after Dave passed, and he said, and he was really upset about it. And he said, do you think when you go through some of Dave's stuff, that I might be able to get a costume piece of Dave's, something, a sword, a costume piece, a hat that he wore at the festival? And he says, I feel really horrible even asking. And I said, don't feel horrible. I said, because there's going to be 100 people that are going to want Dave's stuff out there above and beyond those who should have Dave's stuff. And I said, we're going to leave it up to Dave's brother, John, Uncle John. If he comes in tonight, we'll say hi to him and the other people that are helping. And so, and by the way, if you did not hear the news, just a week ago, Friday, a week ago today, Uncle Dave and Uncle John's mother passed away. So if you remember when Uncle Dave died, his brother Stephen died the same day. And that left his elderly parents both in their mid-90s and very frail, needing a lot of help. That's what Dave did. He lived at his parents' house and helped them. And then his mother just passed away now 3 months afterwards. So there you go. And they've been together for, when you think about this, we're talking about longevity. They've been together for 76 years, if I'm remembering the number right. So you wonder how Dave's dad's going to be doing in days upcoming. The woman he's been married to for 76 years just died 3 months after 2 of his sons died. So he's outlived a lot of people. And Uncle John is in his early 70s. So there you go. But do you think his energy will come through with any pieces like contact you? Maybe. That's a maybe, Steph. I think it can. I think I've already had some contacts from Dave. And so his contact with me was, you remember the spirit box from a few weeks ago. That was direct and to the point. He said, the more I listened to that, he said, I said, I love you, Dave. And he said, I miss you too. And then as I looked at Rainey and she said, I heard him say, I miss you too. And I said, I heard that too. And as I'm saying that, underneath my voice, you hear the same voice coming out of the box saying, and I love you too. So I got that contact from Dave. And Sam has had the dreams. Sam had, I don't know if I announced it here or if I read it to my daughters, my older daughters, and that Sam had, he was using the one of the spirit boxes about a week ago, and he got some contact from Dave. He said it was Dave's voice, unmistakably. And it was one of those phone apps, and those do work, by the way. It's just like you don't need a Ouija board to make a Ouija board work. You can use a piece of paper with the alphabet and numbers written on it and a upturned shot glass. But Sam said on this voice box he had, Dave's voice said something about just affirming to Sam, I love you, Sam. And Sam said he started to cry. And when he heard Dave's voice, and the voice came back to him again and said, don't cry, I'm okay. And so it's something that I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact things. So yeah, Steph, that's Steph. And Steph, I want your question. You can call in if you want, or you can just pose it in the chat room. Remember, Steph had a question here. And Michael, by the way, I see you out there. Hang on. And what was Steph's question? Oh, she said, I thought we were going to do a paranormal show tonight. And instead, it was this one on sexual satisfaction. And she said, we can have both discussions. LOL. I have a spooky sexual question that I could throw out there if needed. And then she said, you might regret it, Scotty. I doubt that. I think we can have a good time with everything. So, Steph, let's see. What did she say here? She says, do you think those who are firm believers in it will have more desire to come through knowing those they are trying to contact are firm believers also? Yeah, I think belief in it probably doesn't matter, is my guess. If they're going to talk to you, they're going to talk to you. If they're going to make contact, they're going to make contact. Will they have more desire to come through, you're asking? Maybe more desire knowing that those people didn't believe that. Or I don't know, maybe there's a whole different perspective over there. I'm not going to talk. They don't believe I'm out here, so let's just let them be. I don't know how it's going to be out there. That is a good question. Let's bring Michael in. Michael, how you doing?
Hanging in there, but just more of the same.
Right on.
Judge, like I said, she's talking about Uncle Dave's mom passing. I said,
yeah,
people know, my dad passed. We're gonna have his service tomorrow, and
that's right. Your dad passed.
So, and like I said, it was not, the greatest relationship. Kind of looking at answers for the end that didn't come, and
sure.
And now, I see my kids, heartbroken because they seen a grandfather that I didn't see as a dad. So you deal with that.
Sure.
Sure. There's a lot of that emotion that comes up, and
I didn't think so, Steph. Yeah, I understand. I get that, I guess, like right now, my dad and I have a decent relationship, but we haven't talked in a couple of months. That's my fault. I haven't gotten back to him, and he hasn't gotten a hold of me either, and so I've got to make that connection, reconnect. I'll probably call him tomorrow sometime when we have a break in the cheerleading, but we don't have a bad relationship. It's just my kids don't know him.
Yeah. There's something that I've always heard from Wendy, and she says, time is fleeting. You never know how much you got. It's almost like you're, and I said it in my mic mute for some reason. I'm trying to figure this new one out. I finally got me a boom. I come up big time like you and all the rest of the guys. Got me a boom to hold my mic, so I didn't have to hold it here.
Yeah.
Uncle Dave, and now his mom, and Henry and my dad, and KB and the sickness he went through, and Uncle Terry. I'm ready for 2023 to get the fuck out of here. I say that sitting here on an ice block right at April door, putting my back today. I'm thinking every time you go around, 2023 is kicking you in the nuts. I'm like, holy hell.
Yeah.
Who pissed this year off?
Yep.
But it's that's somebody messed me with that. And they said, "Oh, I haven't seen you around, and I said, just dealing with a lot of stuff.
I hear you.
Go on top of that, and it's like, damn. Sometimes you just want to sit down and pet the dog. But no, I was going to remind every day. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, or remind everybody. Well, that's where my mind is. Remind every day who it is. But yeah, tomorrow's Veterans Day for all who have served or appreciates people who did. And
yes,
and that's what I always told my guys. I said, when you see an older veteran go in front of you, I said, you shake his hand. He paved the way.
There you go.
And a lot of people said, "Oh, you just like Veterans Day because they give out free stuff." I'm like, "No." Nah. I said, somebody had to tell me today. I signed in and give her all my stuff, and she's like, "Oh, happy Veterans Day." I was like, "When's that? We get a day now? We still get a day?" And she laughed. But yeah, Veterans Day is tomorrow.
Right.
So if you got a Golden Corral or somewhere, they'll probably feed you for free.
I've had a couple of people say Happy Veterans Day to me, and I said, I said, here's the thing with mine. I've talked about this in my own story on this show many times, is that I accept it, and I'm happy to be classified as a veteran, but at the same time, feel I don't deserve that so much. Because I didn't go very far. I had an injury that took me out of the service.
They told us 91 days. 91.
Yeah,
If you had a soldier that you really wanted to get rid of, that was that guy. They said make sure he did it in 89 days or less.
There you go.
On the 91st day, they're entitled to all the same benefits as somebody who was 20 years.
Right. I didn't go 91 days.
And
so I have some benefits that I can reap, but not many.
Yeah,
but
that's what our regulation was.
And as I've had guys that have been combat veterans have said to me, "Oh no," they said, "You are as much a veteran as I am." He says, "Just because you didn't go serve overseas or in war," he said, "you signed on the line and you did it. You've made the commitment, and they changed that for you."
And that's what I tell them,
That's the only thing that,
Oh, yeah. People can talk about, and the ones I really love when I hear the stories like, "Oh, I would have went, but if they'd got my face, I'd have beat their ass." I said, I've seen some big ass guys that had people get in their face and they sat there and kept their mouth shut. But like I said, it's one of the things that I extend to respect to you and other guys who made that obligation because you basically signed your name on a blank check. Do with me what you wish for X number of days. And here's
I signed up for 6 years, by the way.
Yeah. That's the way I was. They asked me, they said, "You going to go 3, 4, or 6?" I said, "Well, if I'm going to make a mistake, damn it, I'm going to make a big one.
Let's make it all the way."
Make it all the way.
Yeah, I went signed up for as an officer. Going to go to officer training.
Or the dark side, Scotty.
6 years.
The dark side.
Yep, that would have been me. So anyway, I accept it when people who know I serve say it. And I said, "Well, thank you. I appreciate that." And there's still way in the back of my head, it's that thing that says, "Yeah, I appreciate it, but I didn't do much." So
I told that lady today, I said, "Don't thank me." I said, "I had a good recruiter."
Yeah.
She said, "What?" I said, "He figured out how to get me where I wanted to go." I said, "Because I wasn't smart enough to do it on my own." I said, "He was." But no, it's I was going to say, and that being said, after the first of the year, I wanted to make the announcement because we've been thinking about this for a while. We're going to call it the Smoke Pit Veterans Talk. And my PA, he's a Navy corpsman. And John's going to throw some sponsorship in behind it for Anchor Health and Wellness. And we're going to try to do some paranormal stuff, maybe what veterans have seen, because I have seen things in other places that I can't explain. Some conspiracy theories, because like I said in the comments earlier, nobody fucks like the government. You want to find your sexuality, fuck with the government. They'll let you know real quick.
There you go.
But that's what I told him. I said, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are tough with Scotty. I said, so you got Tuesday and Thursday. And he's like, okay. He said, what about the weekend? I said, no, that's Wicked Women and some other stuff. I said, go ahead and pick a day I may or may not be free. And he's like, oh, okay. Because, I didn't want to clash, where, it's like I used to my brother when we built race cars. I said, why don't we do 2 classes? I said, I'm tired of beating my own work.
Nice.
But no, it's going to be called the Smoke Pit Vet Talk, and try to launch it out of first of the year.
Well, let us know more about it as it gets closer.
Yeah, and I thought today would be a good day to kind of put that out there on Veterans Day and try to get some help for some of these guys that are on the street instead of sending our money to everything else.
Right.
Take care of the ones who fought and bled.
Right.
Yeah, but no, but sexuality. Hey, I'll pop that on because I woke up and had a notification. I popped it up and I thought, sexuality, ain't that a hell of a subject to wake up to? I'm in. I'm in. Put a smile on my
It was
face.
an interesting topic.
It was.
Let's see. Steph, are you going to call in, Steph, or you want to post your question in the chat room? You should call in and present it. But she says, okay, I know this is probably not plausible. You know how they say some spirits can assault a person. Say there was a person who willingly had sex with the spirit continuously, like let them in. Would that be wrong if the person did that? They aren't hurting anyone. Do you think a spirit could be a loving spirit? Oh, Steph, that is a huge can of worms. There are people, I know there are people out there, we've seen some of them in the news. We think they're crackpots because they fell in love and want to marry a ghost. And they believe that they have ongoing relationships like that with ghosts, spiritual beings. Can a spirit being have sex with you? Is I don't know. We see biblically speaking, is God a spirit being or is God a physical being? What kind of being is God? God impregnated a woman, but he did that. Did he do that through God magic, or did he have sex with her? And I'm not saying that to be flippant or blasphemous or anything like that. We have different. We have Nakash in the Garden of Eden, the one of the Elohim who impregnated Eve. So what kind of, that's a spirit being. And you're saying, but what if it's real? Steph says. I'm not doubting that it could be. I don't know. I don't know of any particular cases where that's real, but I will say this. I don't have any doubts that it could happen. Now, we see how difficult it is to have sometimes just a conversation with a spirit, with somebody who's passed on. I couldn't imagine trying to have a physical relationship with one. Now, is it possible? I do know there's talk of for centuries of incubus and succubus, demonic entities that will have sex with men or women. What if it's real? You say, Steph says, I have no clue, but I'm like, what if it did? Maybe we should do a show on that particular topic, and I'll dig into it some more. But I think it's possible. You're going to have probably people who are of the cloth, like they used to say of priests and pastors and reverends and men of the cloth, or people of the cloth, that are theologians that might look at that, and immediate reaction would be, that's obviously sinful. That's obviously very dark, and no matter how good you think the ghost might be, or the spirit might be, is that something that is a good thing? I know there was a lot of theology built around the fact that in ancient times that there were demonics or spirits of this world that worked very hard to replicate humans, the perfect hybrid offspring of humans and demonic beings or spirit beings, elemental beings. And there's a lot of information about that stuff that's out there, theologically speaking. You're going to have a scientific person or a skeptical person say, it's a bunch of fairy tales. That might not be.
You remember Foster Crowley that tried to bring the Whore of Babylon back through the mirror?
Yeah, something like that.
And I have been scratched, and I've had marks left on my body doing paranormal investigations. So, but when she said that, I thought of that movie, like Scary Movie or whatever, where the ghost had his way with the guy in the bed or whatever, and he flipped him over and all that. And but before that, I had never ever thought of that. And that movie is what put that image in my head when she said that.
Right. Well, I think it's possible. I think even from a theological standpoint, when I talk about the Nephilim, that's all because there were spirit beings that had relationships. Now, were they technically spirit beings, or were they different kinds of creation that weren't spirit beings? Yeah, there you go.
Available on audiobook, right?
Yep, you can get that on audiobook too.
Yeah. Second time
so what was that? What was that? No one wants to see this anyways. It says I just got home 15 minutes ago. No one wants to see this. Yeah, come on in, field guy.
Yeah.
I did 5.5 hours on YouTube last night. Wow. That's a marathon show. Let's see.
But Steph, people sitting around his chair.
Steph, I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
I do. I do think that. Now, the big question is, are they spirits or are they physical beings that are in that spirit realm, so to speak, that other dimensional realm? And I don't know that angels are sexless and can't have sex. That's Roman Catholic theology. But it's all based on one little obscure word where Jesus said something like, they neither are taken in marriage nor have children or something like that. Does that mean they're sexless? I don't think so. Because it doesn't come right out and say that. So, Steph, that's a very interesting question. My answer is not a definitive answer from a definitive expert source, but I will tell you that I think it's possible. That's my answer. I'll look into it some more and see if I can, only for the sake of finding out more information and seeing what theologians have to say about it, seeing what shamans have to say about it, because I do know there can be physical activity between the spirit world and humans. So the big question is it interdimensional beings? Is that all spirits are? Is a spirit wispy and ghost-like, or is the reason you can't touch them and see them very because it's a physical being on a different dimension, afterlife dimension? Can they cross that void and have that kind of contact? I know we see little bits and pieces of contact. Something's picked up and moved or something like that. What causes that? What has the ability to do that? And I just got a chill ran all the way up my back and into my chest as I said that, backs of my arms, talking about spirits that can move things and can do
what's the name you call somebody that used to speak necromancers? Necromancers. So you'd have to be one hell of a necromancer to have an ongoing.
Oh, sure.
With that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll do step one better. He said possible. I said plausible. Anything is plausible once. You can jump out of an airplane without a parachute once. But yeah,
I've said I find it interesting, and I just want to know what it feels like. And she says, "Should I be jealous?" Jealous of whom? No. I think if some of us are being honest, we'd say, if a ghost, what I thought was a ghost or a spirit being, appeared to me and said, "I want to have sex with you," Rocky and I used to talk about this very same topic. He said, "So would that be like cheating on my wife if I had sex with a ghost?" I said, "Well, yeah. If you have sex with anything, you can have sex with a paper clip." And, that's nonsensical answer, but you could have sex with anything. And if your wife does not approve of that and you're stepping out on your wife, and your wife would, I think if I told Rainey, I have this ghost that wants to have sex with me, she'd probably look at me and go for it. Because she wouldn't believe me, number one. So
Steph said, no, dead bodies and spirit.
Right, Steph. I know you don't mean necromancing, which is sex with dead bodies. I know that's not what you meant.
No.
You're talking about in spirit only. So what kind of manifestation?
That's two different words. What is the other one? One of them is the necromancers that talks to dead, and the other one is because it's necro. necrophilia or something.
No.
I'm trying-
Whatever.
yeah, but
I
they're
would
similar
just
but
say,
different. They're similar but different.
I
One
would
is
just
not
say
bad.
that if a ghost can touch you physically, can scratch you, you can feel it. Is that a ghost? Is that a spirit? Sometimes we don't really even know for sure. If a ghost could appear to you and have sex with you, what would that be like? What would you see? Would it be just like, well, hop aboard, ghost ma'am, and let's do what we can do? Does it feel the same? Is there a physical contact to that? I don't know. And I would dare say that those who might know an answer to that are going to be the ones that probably look at it and condemn it as being something that's very dark. And so, Steph, let me ask, do you know somebody or of somebody who has done this? Or is it just a question that comes up? So I've had the same question.
We need to
I think if a hot female ghost appeared to me at night and said, I want to have sex with you, after I was done peeing my sheets because something appeared in my room and said it was a ghost, presupposing a lot of things here, if I were to have sex with a ghost, would it be like physical sex? Do they sweat? Do they moan? What do they do? Now, obviously, take pleasure in it. What does that do? If there's not physical touch, what is the stimulating factor? What is the friction and the stimulating factor? I don't know. So, Steph, for me, I think it would all be how they manifest and how can they do that. So, you said, Steph said, I'd be like, it better be a spirit threesome if it includes my man. There you go. There it is. Yeah.
What was that movie, Ghost of Patrick Stewart, where he'd always put his arms around her and she could feel him doing clay and all that? I just thought that's.
I would think, Steph, you'd have to. Yeah. What are the ethical? What would be the ethical ramifications of having sex with a ghost or a spirit and you're a married person? I think it's the same as if it was with a human. You're still doing something with somebody else outside your marriage bonds or your relationship bonds. I think it would all depend on what your relationship can withstand and what it allows.
Scotty, you could always take the Bill Clinton stance, go on national TV and say, "I did not have sex with that woman." Yeah, that's why. Yeah, you just. But that kind of reminds me of the guy who came out. Somebody sent me a video the other day, and the guy said he was sexually assaulted by a female Bigfoot. You need to Google the clip. I saw it and I thought of all the things, of all the bullshit that goes through my bullshit filter today, like Professor Bauer said. I pull this up and this guy, he looks like Tweaker or whatever, and I'm like, holy shit.
Field guy asked, will a ghost say harder, daddy?
No, she'll moan it in your ear.
I don't know, Field guy. I just don't know.
He said something about when his spirit would be sneaking into ladies' rooms. So if you get a weird hair, something comes up, he'll be over there trying to. What do you call it? When you astro project? Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
trying to astro project, and it could be the same thing. Somebody could, cause your spirit leaves your body when you astro project because you're just tied on by your silver cord.
Right.
So it might not be a ghost. It might just be somebody that's really good that has came up with the skill set to come in.
Steph says, what if there was a ghost that fell in love with a human? Steph, I don't think that's far-fetched at all.
No,
I think that there are ghosts out there that were unrequited in life and may still be in love with somebody, or that were in love with somebody in life and they passed and they're still around that person because they still love that person. Yep. I don't see that as an impossibility at all.
The attraction is so strong that you cannot break it.
I also think that humans could be in love with. Imagine the person who lost the person they loved. And they didn't think that they could go on with anybody else, and they're alone in life, and they have contact with that person as a ghost or a spirit. What do you think is going to happen to that person if they knew that they could be with that person again without taking their own life? And of course, none of us even knows what the afterlife is really like. What if you take your own life and for some reason you're not together?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here's a quick point. Reincarnation, Scotty.
Yeah.
You pro, con? I've never asked you that, and brought up that eternal love thing.
I'm kind of down the middle on that one. It contradicts theology I used to believe, but at the same time, there's a lot of what seems to be evidence of it. But you don't know for sure. There's no way to really qualify it, other than anecdotal stories from people saying, well, my little boy remembered this, or I remember this life or that life or whatever. That's all very subjective stuff. So I think it's probably real.
When she said eternal love, I thought of that because, I've made connections with people over my lifetime. It felt like I've known them for a lifetime, over and over again. And it comes back to that. And it reminds me of that movie, and I can't remember who played in it, but him and her died. And then they had to go watch the video of their life, of all the lives they lived up until they had got it right. I cannot remember what the name of it. It was funny as hell. It was like a romantic comedy. And but him and her, then at the end of it, it showed both of them being born in New York City, and one was coming out whatever, and one was like swap genders, and so yeah. But the one thing that I have told my kids to kind of get them through this is because they're upset. My dad was old, stage 4 lung cancer, pancreas failing, looking rough, and I told them, I said, Einstein proved years ago the one thing in this universe that could not be created or decreated was energy, and we're energy. So therefore, if you can't either create it or destroy it, that means your essence is somewhere, and it will be with you somewhere. Where it goes, I said, I don't know. I said, that's a deep dive for some other people that I know. And my middle son's like, why don't you call them up? I said, because right now, I said, they really probably don't want to touch on this subject. I said, I'll get around to it when I get around to it. But I was going to ask you, what is the app that he uses on his phone? If you could text me the name of it. I thought about downloading
Necrophonic.
Necrophonic.
The word phonic is in phonics. Put necro at the beginning. It's called Necrophonic. And there's a couple of them out there that have that name. And it's made by a certain company. Let's see. I had message at Rainey because she asked me last Saturday when she was out with the troops. They were doing an overnight. And she asked me about that. And I sent her a thing on it. It's right here. It's Necrophonic. I've got it here from the GameStop. It's Necrophonic, and it's got the logo. You'll be able to tell it's a circle, but it's like a gear with the cogs, and then a pentacle in the center. When you go look up you can find it on the App Store.
If I can get it to focus.
Chill Seekers, it says. I don't know if that's a company or if that's because it says Chill Seekers Lifestyle. So it's just look up Necrophonic, and it's got the little round circle that looks like a gear.
Yeah, that's what I showed.
Clock gear with a pentacle in the middle.
That one.
And that's the. But and like this, even with a phone app like that, I tell people just use it responsibly, because you don't know what you're opening and letting things come and talk to you and so on and so on. So let's see. Oh, feel even if I call you daddy? Nice. So there you go. Steph, I hope that answered your question a little bit. It doesn't give a definitive final answer on it, but I think this is something maybe this next week on the radio show, we'll come up with a show on this topic.
Oh, what I seen she posted. She said, when somebody dies, where does the energy go? I seen that, and necrometer.
Necrometer. I've not used that one, Steph.
Let's see here.
The one where I got Uncle Dave's voice was the necrophonic.
But yeah.
And at times I look at those apps. I don't always trust them. I test them out because you turn it on and there's all kinds of voices coming through, and that's what these ITC devices are like. And you don't know, is this all just programmed in there? But when you get a direct response, that makes it very different for me. So, yeah, the necrophonic.
Yeah, that's what I always thought.
Eating some chips while we're doing this because it's the after show.
Yeah, we're more laid back, but yeah, the energy. That's what I've always thought. Where does the energy go? When I've asked people, and nobody can give me a clear answer. Where does all the energy go?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, but yeah,
I'm looking for. Here's what Sam wrote me. He said, I was listening to, okay, everybody, check this out. My son Sam, and this was October 30th when this happened. So about a week ago, a little over a week ago. He said, I was listening to Necrophonic earlier with a pair of headphones. I asked if Uncle Dave was there, and it went quiet, then said, I'm here, Sam. How you doing? It sounded like Uncle Dave, and I started to cry. And within a second, it said, don't cry, bud. I'm okay. And that's something Dave would have said. He called him Bud. And he says, that's all I really got, sitting there for about 30 seconds or 30 minutes. And what did he say here? Oh, he tried the necrophonic on another time after the Phantom's Feast. He said, it was the most clear words to date I've heard come out of that app, and it's the only time I tried using it while alone. It was almost a full moon last night, which I'm not sure how much that affects what can happen. So that was his little recent experience with the necrophonic. So,
did you see the other question she just asked? He said, I wonder what would be wrong to love a spirit over a human.
Nothing. I don't think anything really. I think it's not as productive.
No.
Hey,
you ain't going to do the dishes, mow the grass, or fold your laundry.
Hang on. Keep talking.
All right. But when I see that,
you got what?
In this day and time, people identify with anything they want to do with, and I thought Jerry Springer in the day was crazy.
Maybe somebody's got a remedy.
When the guy married his horse, so
yeah,
I said, do what you want. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, everybody, here's Flynn, my 14-year-old boy, who's got a cure for the hiccups. He's had hiccups really bad for a while. Now, what happened that it hurts in your stomach?
It hurts.
Your diaphragm?
Mm-hmm.
Who's got a good cure for hiccups? For Flynn.
I was going to say, take him skydiving, push him out of the airplane.
Take him skydiving. Yeah, that'd do it.
Yeah. She said, that'd be. No, when I said that, like I said, I'm not making.
I agree, Steph. Nope to bestiality.
If these people are so crazy out there that they can marry a lampshade, why can't you marry your ghost friend? That's what I was getting at. And what does that say? Party what? Devil death. Oh, death. Dark. Oh,
your shirt?
Yeah, Star Wars. Okay.
Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Fear tour.
Yeah.
Destruction. What's it say on that side? Fear, death.
Yeah.
And destruction. Sith at the bottom.
Hey, you go outside and he pop up. That scared the shit out of you. You had to get rid of the hiccups real sure. See him.
Sure.
Because he was a scary looking dude.
I've heard a good way to do it is you exhale as much air as you can, and you suck your gut in as hard as you can, and you put your fingers up and push up on your diaphragm. And do a 10 count, or as long as you can. without passing out because you've exhaled your air.
Yeah.
And give that a try. Otherwise, I don't really know any good remedies for hiccups, son. I don't. We've tried a million different things. Drinking.
I don't care about the hiccups. It's just I got this really sharp pain.
Did it happen like just one of the hiccups did that, and all of a sudden you felt the pain? Well, yeah, you got a little spasm probably in your diaphragm. So
that sucks. It hurts.
Oh well. Wish I could help him. All right. Well, guys, it's 10:43. I got to get up early tomorrow, and I'm already exhausted tonight. So good conversation, Steph. We're going to hit some more of this on this topic specifically. Oh, well, let's see. Steph said, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Regulate breathing. Yeah. Don't take in a lot of air, says Field Guy. So we'll look into this some more. Let's see if we can do a topic on this. Falling in love with a ghost. Michael, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for coming in, brother.
Yes, sir.
Have a good night. And so it's a great question, Steph. And it's an interesting topic because it's come up before. And it's come up with other people before. And can you be in love with a ghost? Can ghosts reenact being in love with each other? I want to read you something before I send you on your way. I used to read this for my older kids and a few times for my younger kids. They're not as much into it. But if you're into Lorena McKennett, you have heard Lorena McKennett. She made this into a song. It's an old poem by Alfred Noyes and called The Highwaymen, dealing kind of with this thing. So if you haven't heard this before, I'll read it for you now. And if you have heard it before, I hope you enjoy it. My grandfather used to quote this long time ago. And I'd read this to my girls, and it used to really, it would get to me emotionally at some parts. Let's see how we do tonight. So The Highwaymen by Alfred Noyes. The wind was a torrent of darkness among the gusty trees. The moon was a ghostly galleon tossed upon cloudy seas. The road was a ribbon of moonlight over a purple moor, and the highwaymen came riding. The highwayman came riding up to the old inn door. He'd a French cocked hat on his forehead and a bunch of lace at his chin, a coat of the claret velvet and breeches of brown doe skin. They fitted with never a wrinkle. His boots were up to the thigh, and he rode with a jeweled twinkle, his pistol butts a twinkle, his rapier hilt a twinkle under the jeweled sky. Over the cobbles he clattered and clashed in the dark inn yard. He tapped with his whip on the shutters, but all was locked and barred. He whistled a tune to the window, and who should be waiting there but the landlord's black-eyed daughter, Bess, the landlord's daughter, plaiting a dark red love knot into her long black hair. And dark in the dark old inn yard a stable wicket creaked, where Tim the ostler listened. His face was white and peaked. His eyes were hollows of madness, his hair like moldy hay, but he loved the landlord's daughter, the landlord's red-lipped daughter. Dumb as a dog he listened, and he heard the robber say, "One kiss, my bonny sweetheart, I'm after a prize tonight, but I shall be back with the yellow gold before the morning light. Yet if they press me sharply and harry me through the day, then look for me at moonlight. Watch for me by moonlight. I'll come to thee by moonlight, though hell should bar the way." He rose upright in the stirrups. He scarce could reach her hand, but she loosed her hair in the casement. His face burnt like a brand. As the black cascade of perfume came tumbling over his breast, and he kissed its waves in the moonlight. Oh, sweet black waves in the moonlight. Then he tugged at his rein in the moonlight and galloped away to the west. He did not come in the dawning. He did not come at noon. And out of the tawny sunset before the rise of the moon, when the road was a gypsy's ribbon looping the purple moor, a redcoat troop came marching, marching, marching. King George's men came marching up to the old inn door. They said no word to the landlord. They drank his ale instead. And they gagged his daughter and bound her to the foot of her narrow bed. Two of them knelt at her casement with muskets at their side. And there was death at every window, and hell at one dark window. For Bess could see through her casement the road that he would ride. They had tied her up to attention with many a sniggering jest. They had bound a musket beside her with the muzzle beneath her breast. Now keep good watch, and they'd kissed her. She heard the doomed man say, "Look for me by moonlight, watch for me by moonlight. I'll come to thee by moonlight, though hell should bar the way." She twisted her hands behind her, but all the knots held good. She writhed her hands till her fingers were wet with sweat or blood. They stretched and strained in the darkness, and the hours crawled by like years, till now, on the stroke of midnight, cold on the stroke of midnight, the tip of one finger touched it. The trigger at last was hers. The tip of one finger touched it. She strove no more for the rest. Up she stood to attention with the muzzle beneath her breast. She would not risk their hearing. She would not strive again, for the road lay bare in the moonlight, blank and bare in the moonlight, and the blood of her veins in the moonlight throbbed to her love's refrain. Talat, 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 talat. Had they heard it? The hoofbeats ringing clear. Talat, 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 talat in the distance. Were they deaf that they did not hear? Down the ribbon of moonlight, over the brow of the hill, the highwaymen came riding, riding, riding. The redcoats looked to their priming. She stood up straight and still. Talat, talat in the frosty silence. Talat, talat in the echoing night. Nearer he came, and nearer her face was like a light. Her eyes grew wide for a moment. She drew one last deep breath. Then her finger moved in the moonlight. Her musket shattered the moonlight, shattered her breast in the moonlight, and warned him with her death. He turned, he spurred to the west. He did not know who stood, bowed with her head o'er the musket, drenched with her own blood. Not till the dawn he heard it, and his face grew gray to hear how Bess, the landlord's daughter, the landlord's black-eyed daughter, had watched for her love in the moonlight and died in the darkness there. Back he spurred like a madman, shrieking a curse to the sky, with the white road smoking behind him and his rapier brandished high. Blood red were his spurs in the golden noon. Wine red was his velvet coat when they shot him down on the highway. Down like a dog on the highway. And he lay in his blood on the highway with a bunch of lace at his throat. And still of a winter's night, they say, when the wind is in the trees, when the moon is a ghostly galleon tossed upon cloudy seas, when the road is a ribbon of moonlight over the purple moor, a highwayman comes riding, riding, riding. A highwayman comes riding up to the old inn door. Over the cobbles he clatters and clangs in the dark inn yard. He taps with his whip on the shutters, but all is locked and barred. He whistles a tune to the window, and who should be waiting there but the landlord's black-eyed daughter, Bess, the landlord's daughter, plaiting a dark red love knot into her long black hair. 1947, Alfred Noyes wrote that poem. So there you go, folks. The Highwaymen. And you can go to YouTube, look up Lorena McKennett and The Highwaymen, and she has put that to music. So it's a great poem. I hope you enjoyed it. So I'm going to send you all on your ways tonight. I love it too, Steph. And I used to read that to my little girls every night. Every other night. They got very used to it. And I will see you again on Sunday for a couple of hours, and then we're going to head out and go down and meet with Uncle Dave or Uncle John and go through all of Uncle Dave's stuff, Sam and I. So we'll see you Sunday morning. You guys have a great Saturday. I'm going to be at the cheerleading competition, and so I will maybe see you sometime throughout the day. So you all have a good night. Thanks for being here. Thanks for giving me your time. And we will talk again soon. Live long and prosper and shalom.